Good evening and welcome to the November 21st, 2024 regular Board of Education meeting. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Mr. Loop.
Here.
Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Mrs. Selly.
Here.
Mrs. Reynolds. Here. Mr. Nickram.
Here. And we'll start with Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our vision statement reads, achieving distinction in all that we do, while the mission statement reads, cultivate an inclusive, high-performing culture of growth and community. We'll start off this evening with comments from the audience, if there is any this evening.
We have none.
We have none. All righty. We'll move on to the consent agenda.
Sure. As we're aware, Robert's rules provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board in a single motion. Documentation concerning these items have been provided to all board members in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review, and then will become part of the permanent record. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. This evening, you have item A, minutes from the October 22, 2024 regular meeting. Item B, personnel. This evening, we ask that you approve the following limited term appointment, that of Christopher Smith, 1.0 FTE choir teacher at Fort Atkinson Middle School, effective November 11th, 2024. And also following the resignation request, or accepting the following resignation request, that it be accepted upon satisfaction of liquidated damages for failure to perform in the amount of $1,500, that of Samantha Kessler, 1.0 FTE special education teacher at Fort Atkinson High School, effective December 13th, 2024. Then you have item C, Board Policy 33.2, the update. That is the second read this evening. Item D, gifts to the district. We do have no gifts to the district to report this evening. And then item E, budget transfer requests, and item F, payment of district bills and the treasurer's report.
All right. Thank you for that.
I move approval of the consent agenda with no removals.
All right. And we have a first and a second. And any other discussion at all? Okay. With a roll call, please.
Mrs. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Loop.
Yes.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Mrs. Selly.
Yes.
Mr. Nickram.
Yes. All right, moving to instruction, strategic plan update and data review.
Yes, this evening we are very pleased, as we have over the last 3 years, with our strategic plan to provide the board an overview of some of the work and efforts, some of the successes and challenges that we're seeing related to the 3 goals within our strategic plan. Dramatic pause. There we go. Of course, our vision and mission drives the 3 goals that we have within our strategic plan, which we'll talk about a little bit about each one of them as I go through this evening. I would just point out that we are in year number 4 of our 5-year strategic plan. We have not wavered from what are pretty rigorous goals, and we continue to work day in and day out, as do all of our teachers, staff, and students, related to finding greater success and achievement in each of these 3 goal areas. First, this evening we'll talk about the inclusive culture of growth goal. Our learning community will exemplify an inclusive culture of growth responsive to our learner and community needs. And I'm happy to share some information related to continuing efforts related to that goal. In connection with the district goal of exemplifying an inclusive culture of growth, our staff continues to grow in their understanding and application of best practices in the area of student regulation and its connection to strong academic learning. Throughout the year, our educators are deepening their understanding of how the brain takes in information and responds while under stress or as a result of trauma. Staff are engaging in building level sessions led by colleagues, the presenting of new learning in each of the areas of trauma-sensitive practices, neurosequential models in education, and collaborative proactive solutions. Each session then provides an opportunity for the application in daily practice. This learning is the grounds or in the framework for trauma-sensitive practices and seamlessly lifts the ongoing work with both student and adult student emotional learning, ultimately increasing our students' well-being and lifting their academic performance. Aligned with our second goal, the district continues to be responsive to the needs of our learners. Over the course of the past years, the district has focused on meeting student social and emotional as well as mental health needs by building strong pupil service teams. We are very proud that the board has supported school social workers, counselors, school psychologists, and behavior specialists in each of our schools. The collective work of these professionals have provided staff, students, and families with increased connections within the school, access to both school and community resources, as well as targeted instruction and intervention. Members of the pupil services teams have taken on the additional learning and training connected with the professional development that staff are engaging with each month, referenced just a few moments ago. And they are also invaluable resources as our staff work together to help ensure students are accessing the high level of instruction provided each and every day. Also aligning with the second goal, our district continues to be responsive to the needs of our community. A rekindled, strengthened partnership with Madison College, the Fort Atkinson campus, has rendered some excellent opportunities for our students. Students in our district's Crossroads Alternative program have a new learning space located right in Madison College here in Fort Atkinson. Conversations regarding space availability and the use started this summer, and the move was completed this last month. The move offers students a real-life learning experience within a post-secondary learning environment, as well as an in-the-moment access to Madison College resources. The partnership with Madison College is providing additional collaboration opportunities starting this spring, which will provide students at Fort Atkinson High School the opportunity to work directly with Madison College. More information regarding these exciting opportunities will be shared as our plans continue to develop and a little later in the year as part of a board presentation. Graduation and receiving a high school diploma is, in fact, the capstone achievement for our students and our district. Given our goal of exemplifying an inclusive culture of growth responsive to our learner and community needs, the district has worked hard to increase pathways for students to earn a high school diploma. The board will receive a report on this related to some of our other efforts that have been underway at the high school a little later in the year. But we are very excited to continue finding ways to help each and every student find their way to a Fort Atkinson High School diploma. Moving now to the 2023-24 Wisconsin School Report Cards. This related to the goal of having all of our schools see a significantly exceeds expectation designation, as well as seeing evidence of annual growth. Just as a quick recap, annually, the Wisconsin Department of Instruction releases school report cards on each public school and district across the state of Wisconsin. The report card measures both growth and achievement across multiple years. For more information, please visit our website or the Department of Public Instruction website. This chart outlines our scores on the State of Wisconsin School Report Cards for 2021. That's on the far left column. You'll see that we're sharing that because that was the baseline year for our strategic plan. As you know, we are in year 4 of that plan, as well as the recently released 2024 results from the 3rd year of our strategic plan. You will note several of our schools saw large gains from their baseline year, and 2 of our schools have reached the significantly exceeds level as well. Our strategic plan goal indicates that we are monitoring for evidence of annual progress as our schools work toward reaching that significantly exceeds expectations designation. Our 2024 report card provides us many opportunities to celebrate that evidence of annual progress, as well as highlight And I'd like to highlight, rather, just a few of those items this evening. First, the district increase in overall accountability rating from meets expectations to exceeds expectations, with 3 of our 4 district priority areas showing growth from 2022 into 2023. All 6 of schools in our district are scoring above the state of Wisconsin average for English language arts as well as math overall achievement. All of our schools are continuing strong test participation to ensure all students are included in our data and reinforcing that growth and achievement for each and every individual student is a top priority for us in Fort Atkinson. Our points-based proficiency calculation representing the achievement scores in district increased in all 6 of our schools from the 2023 school district report card to this year's school report card. We continue to have fewer students with chronic absenteeism across the district. Students in our schools, students who are in our schools, of course, are better access to learning. Finally, we are celebrating that Purdy Elementary School scored a perfect score of 100% for English language arts growth and for math growth in 2024. Luther Elementary also earned a perfect score of 100 for English language arts growth. This means that each and every student in those schools have made at least a year's worth of growth in the 2023-24 school year. Congratulations to Purdy and to Luther for their outstanding commitment to ensuring each and every student, all of our students, make at least a year's growth for a year's worth of their time. The district knows that data-responsive teaching is the key to meeting the needs of each individual student. To support our school improvement plans, the district has launched a new data management system called NextPath Education. This tool equips our teachers and administrators data access and analysis tools to review student academic performance and behavior data in an easy-to-use live visual data display format. This new tool offers many new features, including the ability to provide data access to families, which we are looking forward to maximizing as we achieve our goals in the future. Shifting next to the community distinction goal, that is that we will be the preferred educational option in the region. One way to measure our growth in the area is to look at how the school district of Fort Atkinson compares to each of their schools in our immediate geographical region. In looking at Jefferson County school districts, the school district of Fort Atkinson's district score ranks 3rd of the 10 Jefferson County school districts. All 4 of our Fort Atkinson elementary schools score in the top 7 of the county's 25 elementary schools. Only 4 elementary schools in Jefferson County earned a significantly exceeds expectations rating, 2 of them being right here in Fort Atkinson. And we continue to celebrate that Fort Atkinson Middle School is the highest performing middle school in all of Jefferson County on the Wisconsin School Report Card. I feel like middle school always gets diminished applause from other levels in the district, just saying. Shifting then to a wider region of schools, demographically, those demographically similar to Fort Atkinson, the Fort Atkinson school district definitely has areas where we stand out among our comparable districts as well. Our overall district ranks 6th of the 16 school districts listed. Fort Atkinson Middle School continues to shine, ranking 1st for the 3rd year in a row among the 17 comparable middle schools. We already clapped. Our elementary schools also stand out by making great strides in their comparable rankings since the start of the strategic plan. Luther Elementary ranked 22nd of 54 comparable schools just 2 years ago. This year, Luther ranked 2nd and growing 20 places in rank. Rockwell Elementary School ranked 37th of 54 comparable schools 2 years ago, and this year Rockwell ranked 16th. That's growing 21 places in that rank. Purdy Elementary ranked 38th of 54 comparable schools 2 years ago. This year Purdy ranked 3rd, growing 35 places in rank. Our growth on the school report card can definitely represent that our schools and our district is in fact the preferred option for students and families. In addition to the great gains in ranking with our area and similar school district comparables, we were notified recently by the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction that Luther Elementary School has been selected to receive the National ESEA Designated Distinguished Schools Award for the outstanding academic achievement of all of their students. The National ESEA Distinguished Schools Program publicly recognizes qualified federally funded schools for positive educational advances and the outstanding academic achievement of their students. Luther Elementary has been selected by the Wisconsin Department of Instruction for this national recognition, acknowledging the success of their educational programs. This prestigious honor is awarded to only two schools for each state around the country and celebrates the outstanding efforts and the incredible progress of a school's students. We are simply thrilled that Luther Elementary and their team is part of this outstanding award. And we shift next to our new and revised course proposals. As part of our strategic plan, we are always looking to improve and implement meaningful coursework for our students. And Mrs. Oakley, our Director of Instruction, is here to share some information with you about those.
Thanks. I'm here this evening to share with you one new course proposal and 7 course changes for Board of Education consideration specific to Fort Atkinson High School. I think it's important to share for the public that all of the proposals and changes are grounded in the premise that they will be done with an existing FTE, and no new staffing will be added as a result of any of the new course offerings or its subsequent enrollment. Also, that new courses are offered only pending sufficient enrollment, as well as in the context of the overall budget considerations in finalizing the annual Fort Atkinson High School schedule. So the new course I have to bring to this evening on behalf of Mrs. Sherrell and her team is called Introduction to Software Engineering. This course is a full credit course that replaces the current mobile application course offering. What this does is allow us to have a more contemporary learning experience, wider than just mobile application development, with greater ability within the computer software field to be responsive to updated technology and continuing to keep learning targets more flexible and contemporary in a field that moves very quickly. So the Introduction to Software Engineering course, we are excited to bring forward for your consideration this evening. The next class I have is an update specific to Wisconsin Act 60. So if you recall, Wisconsin Act 60 requires that all graduates in the state of Wisconsin complete a half credit of personal finance for the graduating class of 2028, which would be this year's freshman class. To meet this requirement, we will build upon our current Fort Atkinson High School personal finance course. The revised personal finance course, called Personal Finance and Careers, will be a Fort Atkinson High School graduation requirement per Act 60, starting with next year's sophomores. In an effort to not add any additional graduation requirements within the 7-period schedule, the personal finance course will be revised to incorporate the key components of our current Career Pathways course. The Career Pathways course then will be eliminated, as it will be duplicative of what they would be getting in this new class. There may be components from the current Career Pathways class that will need to be allocated to other course or courses or within pupil services work with students, but this is what we're proposing to move forward to meet that Act 60 requirement. Other updated courses that we're bringing for your consideration this evening are 2 classes that used to be connected in a single class called Consumer, Home, and Auto Care. The Tech Ed department came forward and suggested that rather than have a course that crosses both construction and autos, that we incorporate the construction side with a home improvement class, which specifically focuses on home improvement, repairs, and architectural insights, enabling a student to really learn about a home's functionality as well as creating greater aesthetic appeal. really encouraging our students to develop strong DIY skills from someone a little bit maybe more qualified than YouTube. So, and then the autos component of the consumer home and autos class will be, the basic auto care will be connected to a class called Automotive Basics and Small Engines. And that name change will allow for us to not only understand how small engines work, but also working on things like checking fluids, tires, warning lights, all of those things that used to be covered in the consumer home and auto course. So 2 strong options for students to consider, and also maybe a stronger foundation for a pathway rather than an island class across the 2 areas. We also have some course updates specific to some restructuring. One is called Introduction to Computer Science. What we are doing is then taking the current Computer Science 1 and Computer Science 2 class and combining them into one elective. So we actually are will be offering students fewer classes to be able to access AP Computer Science. And it also then allows the teacher to be more flexible of what is the computer science background that the students are bringing and may have or not have prior to taking AP Computer Science. A name change and introduction to drawing and advanced drawing. That curriculum area used to have more focus on printmaking, which was in its title. At this time, the curriculum that they're utilizing does not include as much printmaking, so that is being removed from the title. And then last but not least, this year we ran 2 animal science classes, an animal science and an advanced animal science dual credit. And after teaching the dual credit class this year, the team has decided that we can just run the dual credit class. There really is no need to offer the non-dual credit class. So at this time, I can answer any questions you might have about the proposed courses. The only one that requires your action this evening is the software engineering class.
The home improvement and small engines courses used to be a 1 credit course, a full year?
I believe it was, oh, sorry, DJ, can you fix that for me? I believe it was a half credit. I'd have to look. Was it originally a half credit? And it was intended to be a course that, originally intended to be a course that attracted a student that maybe never went down in the tech ed area. But what they had found is that it was a course that had difficult time attracting students because students were really into the construction end or they were really into the autos end. So then they just took these starting class in each of the tech ed, or each of the construction of the autos area. And we're hoping that this kind of restructuring, rebranding helps attract people that might have an interest in one or the other, but not both.
Thank you.
The Intro to Computer Science is a prereq now for the new software engineering course being
Correct.
proposed. Is the software engineering course a prereq for AP Computer Science?
Nope, but the Intro to Computer Science is.
Okay.
So that way, if the student is taking the sequence, they have a little bit more flexibility. According to Mr. Sarbacher, though, I think his intention would be they take Introduction to Computer Science, AP Computer Science, and then Software Engineering as the capstone class. Thanks, Mrs. Schraub.
And you mentioned there would be no additional FTE added for this. It's
That's the premise
a lot
we're
of it
working with them.
rebranding and things like that, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Oakley. As I mentioned, of course, we're in year 4 of our 5-year strategic plan, and here we are already near the end of November, which means we're more than a quarter into the new school year. Not surprising, our teams have been working already through the summer related to learning data and other information we have to inform our updated and recreated school improvement plans that each of our 6 sites that they have been engaged in since August. So the work that's going on in each one of our learning communities is based on the work and the success and the challenges that we've seen not just last year but in the past in general. And of course, as you've heard me say more than once, we are where we are, and that's all right as long as we don't stay there. We need to focus on growth, that is getting each and every one, all of our students, to see at least a year's growth for a year's worth of their time. We owe that to our kids, and in some places, we're making that happen, in other places, we're finding that challenging. Our district and community's future rests on our ability to make that happen. We are about moving forward to reach that goal for each and every one of our students. We have the right team here to do it, and we can, we will, and we must, of course, continue to work towards succeeding with our strategic plan goals. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have related to the strategic plan update. Following that, you do have a resolution as a first read related to the one new course proposal that Mrs. Oakley showed just a few minutes ago.
Are you intending to give some sort of press release about our success in
We're really trying to keep it a secret. We really feel like.
All we want is a wise guy superintendent.
Well, I'll just move on. No, of course, like we've actually been very anxious. The school report cards were just released publicly at about 6:36 or so Tuesday morning. So we've had some information over the last month or so internally, but we've not been able to share that publicly. We wanted you to be the first to hear that, especially in the context of the overall plan of which they are part, but just one part, because the strategic plan that you and we've created and have enacted is far beyond any one measure. It's of many, and I think it's important for us to continue to have that context. But yes, Mr. Rogers, we'll definitely let the community know. Mr. Geiger was finally able to share with his staff just after school today of their recognition at the national level. He's been holding that in secret for a couple of weeks. You know, usually when we get calls from the DPI, you know, we're a little concerned, and Dave got one of those calls that was really great to receive. So certainly we're excited for all of the growth we've seen in so many of our schools, but also for Luther specifically.
Well, the public backed us on passing the referendum. They ought to know that their trust was well spent or well put.
I would agree.
In looking at the report card, there's numbers right there, but there's lots of variables that go into those numbers. So can you talk a little bit about, is this comparative to other schools or other school districts? Or are the numbers strictly objective for the testing that our school has done?
So we
You know,
could
you
spend
put
we
on a-
could spend a very long time
I know,
here. So,
but I think it's important because the numbers have so many variables behind them that I think it's important to try to just
Right.
understand where these come from. And then I have a few more questions about those.
the school report cards are extremely complex on the back end. So one of the frustrations with the school report card is that when you look at the first page of it, it looks very simplistic and it looks like, boy, you know, that's all of the information right there. You really need to dive into the backside of what's behind those composite numbers. One of the things that we're very proud of in Fort Atkinson, as you should be as well, is we work extremely hard to test all of our students and to have those school report cards represent all of the students in our district. So when you look at our test participation rates, when you look at our efforts related to attendance and to have kids here so that they can access learning, and the list goes on, you'll see that there's some differentiation between our district and some others. That being said, the DPI has revised the overall school report card 5 times, perhaps, significantly in the last 15 years. So it does become a little bit difficult to make comparisons back 8, 10 years or so. But their efforts are to make the school report card relatively comparable from one district to another. So there's a lot of statistical effort for them when they're looking at the different components of the school report card and trying to make them somewhat comparable.
Does DPI give any analysis of, you know, you went down 0.2, 1.3, do they give any analysis of, here are areas where we think there could be growth? Do they give any help in that regard? Or this wasn't really too big of a jump, it's not that big of a deal?
So the surprise in school report cards are how the data that we already have are calculated and put through the functions that the DPI have created. So I would tell you that there is very, very little data that is new to us in the school report card. That is all of the data that we have already been working with. So when we look at the report card that we shared tonight, that's actually from last year's data. All of the data we had from last year was known to us that we worked with this summer to formulate the strategic school improvement plans for this year. So it's already in the rearview mirror some as it is. So we don't look to the school report card as aha moments in the data. We already know that. What is of interest in the school report card are the 4 different components that are scored separately, and how those are calculated vary from school to school as well as from district to district. So in some cases, achievement scores weigh more heavily than they do in other schools or in other districts, or growth counts differently in some places or others. Or you'll notice in Johnson Creek, they have one school report card because their student population is so small, and they don't have to report in all 4 of those different categories. So, you know, once you get under the hood of it a little bit, you start seeing some of those complexities. So, you know, for those who are interested, we're certainly happy to provide more information or guidance in looking into that. But they really are intended to be a snapshot and not sort of the overall acknowledgement of how students are doing in total in any school district.
Since the strategic plan went in place, has the criteria on the student report card stayed pretty consistent?
It's changed once.
Okay, so even comparing to our baseline, it's challenging to look at that as apples to apples.
Would I say they were sweeping changes? No, but the calculations on the back end and how things are weighted and how categories interact with one another continue to change. So.
Anything that would impact the strategic plan in terms of areas of growth or areas to focus on?
Again, as much as the school report card is a nice composite, it's old data.
Yeah.
So we have acknowledged and been working with all of that data already.
Yeah.
So, you know, so we dissect and look at all of the components of the school report card. We spent a day with one of our data people. We work through the nitty-gritty all the way back through. But it's not that we're having any ahas in the student learning data at that point. It's more, how did they come together for the school report card?
And you said that we now have a 96 and 97% participation rate.
Mhm.
Is that up from what it was before?
It is. I
How is
couldn't
that
tell you
increased?
the numbers offhand, but we've really worked hard on test participation rate, which in Fort Atkinson has always been high. One of the nice things, I mean, you can compare school report cards for all 421 school districts around the state if you'd like, but we do work with a data consultant we have for many, many years. And one of the nice features in working with him is that he works with a lot of different districts across the state of Wisconsin. So he has that sort of insight, and it's interesting to see his perspective and highlight some of the things that he sees here that he doesn't in other places, or vice versa. So there are districts, I would say, that play with test participation a little bit. So if you don't have certain students or certain types of students complete the test, they don't count in your school report card. So that's being fairly accusatory, but I would say not that many years ago that was a game that was a little easier to play for districts than it is now, which we proudly never have played. If we're going to be testing kids, if we're going to have that information, then we should have it on each and every one of the kids in our charge. However, there are challenges to that, and so that's, there are still a few kids that maybe don't finish, or kids that have special circumstances, but it's very few.
Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate that this isn't an aha moment for us. We're not sitting there waiting for the report card to say, oh, well, now we should be doing this. Oh, didn't know
Right.
that, this school needed to be focusing more on, X, Y, or Z. But I think there's a qualitative and a quantitative feeling about schools from the public, right? I mean, the quantitative is right here. The qualitative is how your kid comes home from school and what they tell you and your interaction with the schools and stuff. So I think that it is in telling this story, looking at these numbers, which it's great to see the increases and stuff, but like the high school sticks out. And so I think it's important to understand the context of the report cards and where we're looking at growth, where we're recognizing growth, where we're seeing areas for improvement. That this isn't like you guys are waiting for this and then this is all of a sudden now let's get to work.
No, and that's really the big closer of the presentation, was to acknowledge that our plans that are in action in all 6 of our schools are based on this data, but that we covered back in June. And in fact, the high school met the day after school let out and started working on the data because it was available then. The other thing I would say is we're not apologetic. I mean, you've heard me say many, many times, we are where we are, and we're going to grow from there. Growth and change takes time. We have the right people in the right places, and we have the right improvements underway as well. And in some cases, that takes time. I mean, these are not speedboats of buildings. They are, in fact, ships that take time to turn when needed. So we feel confidence there. And I appreciate you acknowledging that the school report card isn't the end-all, be-all. It's why we didn't present a school report card presentation to you tonight. Not because we're not excited or challenged in some cases, but because we feel like it's part of a context or deserves context in the overall complexion of the rigorous work that we do day in and day out. School testing, evaluation, comparison, I would contend have some level of importance, but not omnipotent importance. And that's the frustration, I think, when we do get compared or perhaps criticized in some places without that context that you're mentioning.
Yeah. Well, and it's the whole premise of the report card, we're just teaching to the test, teaching to get a report card number up. But I think when we look at the strategic plan and what's presented each month on the different elements of that and the different goals, that it is about well-rounded, whole educated child, not just if they can pass the test and how high their numbers are.
Right. And the report card is not about a single element. It's not about a single test. It's not about a single piece of data. I mean, it has become more robust to be more inclusive of different attributes. Things like achievement, individual student growth, and then the way that sort of the lowest performing group of students or target group is their reference in the school report card, that's a relatively new feature that came into place. So if you really want to get into it, we can probably another time, but really what that happens in that calculation is your lower performing students, that lowest band of students actually in the calculation count more than once. So the movement of those lowest performing students is really very important and definitely a focus of our improvement efforts moving forward. So, good questions. Thank you.
Be it resolved that the following new high school course proposal for the 2025-26 school year be placed on the table and considered for approval at the December board meeting, software engineering. I would so move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Rogers, a second by Ms. Reynolds, and all those in favor this evening?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, and next up is student breaks.
Yes, so typically we present the school calendar in December, January, sometimes February for the next year. We realize that what people are most interested in is where are the breaks next year so that they can plan for their families or their children moving forward. We're not quite ready to come forward with a proposed calendar for you yet. So in order to buy a little time and to do our best effort in looking what our overall calendar might look like next year, we are going to announce our fall, winter, and spring breaks. So I'll read them to you now. They'll be on our website. They're, of course, in packet. They'll be in school newsletters, and we'll make sure that people are aware of those dates. But we are preserving a fall break next year. That is Thursday, October 30th, and Friday, October 31st. We will have a very exciting winter break this year because of the way the holiday falls. We're able to have a 2-week winter break, so that will begin Monday, December 22nd, and that will carry through Friday, January 2nd, 2026. And then our spring break will be Monday, March 30th through Friday, April 3rd. This year, just as a point of reference, Easter falls on April 5th, 2026. So again, we will let the community know of all of these, but we know that this is what's of most interest to families in planning for next year. So there's no action to be taken, it's just more of a informational. Yep.
Yep. All right, great. Thank you for that. And next up is Hawthorne Drive and Baker Road update.
Yeah, we've been very excited with our very close work with the city on a number of projects, both things in the past that we're currently working on, but also things to come in the future. So we're happy to have Andy Sully with us, our city engineer, to give a request so that we can get some logistics moving as we need to here next summer, but then also a bit of an update on some development in the city. So, Andy,
Thanks,
welcome.
Dr. Abbott. As many of you may recall, I came before you around about a year ago, I think, asking for the dedication of the right-of-way for what will become Hawthorne Drive. And you granted that. Thank you very much. We've since done some additional design work in the area, and the roundabout that's proposed there is going to require just a teeny little bit more land, as you can see in the figure that's in front of you. So I'm formally asking for the school board to allow that change of the boundaries as shown there. We have not recorded the official document yet at the county level, so we don't have to remove anything. We'll just simply add to that certified survey map. I'd also like to just provide a quick update on the Banker Road project. DJ, if you can flip to that next slide. Perfect, thanks. So we are moving ahead with this project. The council approved the contract for construction with a local company out of Lake Mills that's done quite a bit of work here in the city. What you're looking at there is the overview of the plan for the construction of roads. I will note, I kind of oriented this to the high school. The Banker Road realignment is not part of this construction, but everything else that's shown up there with respect to proposed roads, lot sizes, and things of that nature will be constructed. We may see earth being moved as soon as next week. And in fact, I just sent a note to Mrs. Sherrill and Ms. Moling this evening about potential connection to some water main around the high school. So things are going to start moving fairly quickly. There won't be any work on the high school drive portion, the future Hawthorne Drive, until school is out. So we'll still have some significant interactions there, I think, with traffic planning over the summertime, but nothing to deal with during the school year. The schedule for this, the contractor needs to be completed with the project substantially by September the 1st of 2025. The developer that we're working with, I think, does this laser pointer work? Oh, there we go. This is what's called Trillium Drive, this east-west road that is here. The developer we're working with is planning on breaking ground potentially as early as April on an 80-unit multifamily building here, the first of two potentially. And then this area along in here will be townhomes. So the contract for construction states that Trillium Drive must be available by April the 1st for the developer to begin setting foundations for those structures. So we're very close to inking a deal with that developer through a development agreement that the council will review, hopefully within the next month or sooner. That will firm that up, and then really everything's in place to move forward with some pretty exciting stuff out there next to the high school. So just wanted to give everybody kind of an update as they may start seeing some machines moving around out there. And again, We'll be in close contact with the high school with any potential conflicts, but for the foreseeable future, I don't see a whole lot.
So not to make your presentation about the additional housing, but just to reinforce a couple of things. In our meeting earlier today, it was exciting, I thought, to learn that this first phase of construction includes multifamily or apartment-style housing. And then there's also occupant-owned townhomes on the other side of Trillium Drive as well as a kickoff to that new subdivision, which I think will really be a nice anchor for a different type of housing than perhaps we've seen before. And then I believe you shared also that, things going well, that single-family home sites would be available potentially next year as well. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct. So outside of that Trillium Drive area here, all of these smaller lots, the roads will all be in place, curb gutter, sidewalks, water, you name it, and all of these will be available for single-family residential construction the roads will be finished by September the 1st. So the developer is concentrating on the multifamily first, but they fully intend to continue moving into the single-family homes as soon as they are able to do so. So I think we'll see a lot of hopefully new families and new faces out there rather soon, maybe in 2025. So.
Is Trillium Drive going to connect to the existing Banker Road now, and will it be usable, or are you going to keep it so it's not accessible to the public while all the other construction's going on?
Yeah, good question. It will not be connected to Banker Road. So Trillium Drive will stop short right about here. The reason for that is we received a grant from the DOT for $1.4 million to redesign Trillium Drive. That comes with the string of doing the design the DOT's way, which takes a little longer than the more efficient way that we do it. But obviously $1.4 million makes that pill fairly easy to swallow. So all of the traffic will enter and exit off of Banker Road up here at this intersection, yet to be named Street A that comes around the corner here, and then out down through Hawthorne Drive. So that Banker Road project, if it can be completed in time, is hopefully going to be built in 2026.
The DOT just gave you money?
They did. Well, we asked nicely.
And you were saying that you're going to wait, and thank you, to do any construction on what'll be Hawthorne Drive, which is now just used for accessing the high school. But that'll become a two-way immediately on construction?
It will, yeah. So Hawthorne Drive will have, north and south traffic on there, and then it'll look more like a public street with turn-ins to the high school at those two existing locations.
You had all the assessments about traffic patterns. I mean, I think the roundabout is a great idea coming off at Trillium, and the other traffic patterns won't be affected too much by the two-way traffic into high school.
Right.
So as the board is aware, we're hoping to bring a consideration for you a little later this winter as part of the the capital referendum project that we're sewing up to a large degree is some money earmarked for improvement in logistics and traffic patterns at the high school. So we're excited to be able to bring forward a redesign of the back sort of circle drive of the high school that would potentially afford you to have an improved roadway with adequate and improved drainage, that would have a 10-foot pedestrian path, that would have actual crosswalk areas from that path to our parking lots, that would still potentially preserve a line of inline parking along that roadway. But then also, if down the road there was interest in creating that school-owned property to be two-way traffic, it could be, but it is not something that would need to be decided anytime soon. That being said, they've worked carefully to design Trillium Road so that it is not a confusing point on the roundabout if we continue to be one-way, given that that will be two-way traffic. Is that fair?
It is.
Yeah. So we'll be anxious to bring that forward. We may also be able to look at some some additional pedestrian improvements in the athletic complex. So hopefully by January or February, we'll be able to bring some of that forward to you as well.
So I would assume communications between the school district and the city are going to be coordinated, because I think anytime people see construction equipment, especially road construction equipment, everybody gets angry. And I think as great as this is going to be when it all comes to fruition, people hate to go through the improvement phase. So I'm just assuming that communication is going to be coordinated and consistent so that people know well in advance when.
It will. Andy's done a great job of foreseeing, I think, that. But for instance, in this initial phase of construction, as he mentioned, none of that will be passing through our high school current entrance. None of that will be a nuisance to anyone. I think Banker Road might look a little different maybe for some.
Yeah, there'll be more traffic on Banker.
Yeah, but I am so excited for people to see like some machinery out there and for there to be acknowledgement that we have some additional housing coming to the city. I would love to put some banners on that whenever we can. So I think it's really a great sign for our community, if not our larger area, that one of our main issues related to housing will start having some solutions in the very near future, which is quite exciting. So, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah,
your
thank
time. You do have a resolution related to the additional information in
Item B.
Item B, in item B.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the transfer of property to the city of Fort Atkinson pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 120.13.3 as shown in the preliminary certified survey map for the dedication of a public right-of-way and to authorize the district administrator to execute a quitclaim deed for that purpose.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Sully, a second by Mr. Loop, and a roll call, please.
Mrs. Sully.
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Loop.
Yes.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Mr. Nickram.
Yes. All right, next up is the district technology report.
Yes, we're happy to welcome Mr. Scullin, our Director of Informational Technology, to the podium to provide an overview of some of the efforts and initiatives in his department this last year.
All right, thanks for having me. Let's talk about technology. So the district technology department has had a unique year with no shortage of diverse projects, such as, well, emptying 4 elementary schools for construction, just to name one, supporting the wide range of technical needs for our summer school program, inviting UW-Whitewater cybersecurity students to assess our technical and physical security of our schools, and then diving into the vast world of student data and academic data. And lastly, putting all that technology back together in our 4 elementary schools before our kids and teachers get back. So, as always, I'd like to give a huge thanks to my small and mighty team. We've got Mr. Kaiser, our network administrator, Mr. Niger, our systems administrator, and our most recent addition to the mix, Mr. Galston, our student data management specialist. Anthony, he worked as a research analyst for the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. He was a statistician for the Medical College of Wisconsin. Most recently, he was a Stoughton Area School District mathematics teacher. And he brings a wealth of knowledge on analyzing large data sets, but most importantly, he comes with experience as an educator, and he's a welcome addition to our small team. So in preparation for every nook and cranny of our 4 elementary schools looking like this, we had to move every piece of technology out of our 4 elementary schools. So we used our maps and documentation to identify the locations of all of our wireless access points, all of our security cameras, our interactive TVs, printers, desktops, laptops, docking stations, monitors, mice, keyboard. And when it all came time to put it back together, most of it came back up and was found, which is good. Moving on, Dr. Yin, he's a professor at one of UW-Whitewater's cybersecurity courses. He reached out to me to partner with his spring semester students. He had a class of 33 college kids that that for their semester project would perform not just a cybersecurity audit, but a physical security audit of our schools. And that was, no joke, a lot of fun. We, college kids love pizza, so we bought some pizza. They came into to our high school. They came on site a couple of times. We had a small army of up-and-coming cybersecurity professionals, or, I mean, they're hackers, basically. They came into our high school and assessed our security. There were certainly some ground rules, like we didn't want them burning down any of our core systems. They're each required to sign like a non-disclosure agreement. It was a great learning experience for us and these young professionals. They brought all their fancy hacking tools. They scanned our network for vulnerabilities. They plugged their computers into the wall to see what intel they could come up with. And at one point, one of them brought this strange little scary device that was able to clone my key fob, and it actually worked, which was quite terrifying. They came during a basketball game at our high school, and they blended in, so they were kind of like snooping around trying to see what doors or closets were left unlocked and if there were any like passwords written on the bottom of keyboards, things like that. And then, at the end of the semester, each team presented their findings. It was it was a very cool experience, and an even better outcome was one of those students was interested in interning with us through the summer, so he was a nice addition to our small team. A welcome and celebrated addition to the tool belt is this platform called NextPath. Amy talked about it a little bit earlier. NextPath is an educational data warehouse that makes actionable sense out of some of the enormous amount of data points that we have. We perform assessments on our kids throughout the year, which can garnish pivot points for clusters of students. We can look at student progress broken down by school, grade level, or any demographic. We can follow shifts in performance over time and stand-up intervention services for those groups of kids that need it. We can correlate academic performance to attendance or behavior. And most importantly, we can shift our practices to meet the students where they are, giving them the best chance for success in their academic career. Another less glamorous benefit we finding is one in automation. So in the past, we'd just have these massive spreadsheets of data that was very laborious in interpreting, and we've made great strides in building systems that make sense of that vastness of our information. We wrote some software that we've dubbed PowerSchool Integrity that queries our various databases for accuracy and consistency. So, for example, when students enroll mid-year, when they're entered into PowerSchool, we might not get all the key pieces of information that we need down the road. So we're identifying which pieces of information will be required for state reporting purposes, and then we send, automatic, gentle little reminders to the appropriate district staff when those pieces of information are missing. The more accurate and complete our systems are on ingest, make for a much smoother data experience down the road. And after those handful of highlighted endeavors, we're still doing the same old day-to-day tech. We're monitoring and closing tech tickets in our help desk system for our teachers, students, and families. We're going to be rolling out a new website on a new platform later this year. Our current provider was acquired, which was a perfect opportunity to shop around for alternatives. The one that we found, we were able to negotiate quite competitive pricing, which is always good. Continue to find innovative ways to build everyone's capacity, and most importantly, we are supporting the technical needs of each and every one in our learning community. And with that, I would like to thank you for letting me share some highlights in tech and welcome any questions.
I have one. How did we do with the UW-Whitewater students?
Oh, we did, well, they
How did
found,
we do?
yeah, we
What
did
did they
pretty good.
find?
We did pretty good. I don't want to share everything, because there's
Well,
some,
no,
yeah.
but-
we did pretty good. From a technical security, we did very, very well. And from a physical security, we had a few little gaping holes, but we did well.
Could I just say, though, DJ and his team really took, I think, advantage of that opportunity to support learning for those kids and did an extraordinary amount of work up front to give them a really quality experience that they wouldn't have necessarily needed to do, which was certainly complemented later. So I think that was a very reciprocal experience, and I think the learning happen both ways because of the investment DJ and his team put into that as well. So cybersecurity is a really important piece of DJ and his team's work, and they've taken it very seriously. So this was a really interesting dimension to add, I think. So.
How did that relationship start with Dr. Yang at UW-Whitewater? Was it just proximity based, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so when I started back in 2015, I was handed, they had just did this with Dr. Yin and his students. So I was handed the report, the findings, the audit, and, which got me busy, and there was a lot of stuff in there to fix. We maintained that relationship, and he kind of, since it's Whitewater, they can only do proximity schools around Whitewater, so they sort of do a round robin, and we eventually got back onto their calendar, and they came back. So
Sure, that's great.
and he participates in a lot of the other cyber groups that we collaborate with. So
Yeah, it's amazing when you start talking about some of the door access stuff, like how wide-reaching all of this stuff is, right? Like there's nothing we don't put our hands on that is probably underneath your umbrella some way, shape, or form. So to open yourself up in your department to such an extensive under the hood type moments is really great. So I appreciate that.
no, thank you.
It was probably pretty cool to have college kids doing this versus paying an audit company when you're like, you're getting this for free, and they're probably going to do a more thorough job.
Absolutely.
On the next path, assuming you can drill down to the student level, is that right?
Yep.
And then as far as the capability, and maybe you already do this, but in this program, does it allow you to do like custom dashboards based on what the school is looking at in terms of what kind of data they want to be able to see?
Yeah. Teams of teachers can set up their own sort of data walls and configure it the way that they want it and revisit it, so they don't have to configure it each time. So yes, it's very customizable.
Yeah. I mean, the data is just so powerful. I mean, it tells you so much. I mean, yeah, we don't want to just say our kids are data, but at the end of the day, using that information to see where it's, most important to dig in, or where you have pockets of areas that need special attention. I just think data analytics is huge, and there's so much out there.
If the data isn't in action, it's not being used, and we're not benefiting from it. So this is sort of the third generation of this type of tool, and as we were shopping to bring this on, it was because of the additional features it offered in sort of its additional intuitive level as to being used for, of course, the vastness and the enormity of overall operations, but also in the classroom level for teachers related to individual students. So.
And then the new website, what was the expectation on that? Maybe you said in terms of when it was coming out.
Yeah, so I just signed the contract this week, and they said it can be done as early as 2 months, 3 months, but our contract with our current website is good through the rest of the year. So we've got some time. I don't want to rush it, but yeah, hopefully at this school year.
I'm excited for the new website.
I would just say, if you're done with questions, so early in his presentation, he showed a slide that was him and 3 other people in his department. And I think
Remarkable.
it's probably the understatement of the month to say that without those individuals in that small group of people, you would need an awful lot more people in order to do the type and quality and volume of work that they do. So for them to be in charge of all of the hardware of the district, notice he spent very little time talking about hardware, because they definitely view themselves as part of the larger organization in the learning environment, which isn't something we should take for granted. So,
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, DJ.
All right, next up, we have Mr. Loop with school board election information.
I didn't realize I was presenting.
I did print it out for you as well.
Yeah. For the spring election of 2025, an election for the school board will be held on Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. The spring election will be for 2 seats on the school board. The incumbents currently holding these seats are Christopher Rogers and Robin Selly. Anyone interested in running for these seats may contact the district's superintendent and Board of Education Administrative Assistant Lisa Haas in the Luther Administration Center at 201 Park Street, or by phone at 920-563-7807, or via the school district website. Those interested will be given election materials, including an election schedule, a Wisconsin Association of School Board guide for candidates, and the necessary forms. All of the information and forms are also available on the district's website. The deadline for filing the ballot access documents, including declaration of candidacy form and a campaign finance registration statement, is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. The deadline for incumbents to file a notification of non-candidacy is 5 p.m. on Friday, December 27th, 2024. If a primary election is needed, it would be held on Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. The elected board members will take office on Monday, April 28th, 2025.
Right, thank you for that. Next up is items for future board meetings.
Yes, we'll have the annual school safety drill reports as required by statute, as well as the updated version of our emergency operations plan. And we will definitely have many more items coming up at your January board meeting, something to look forward to in the new year.
Fantastic. Right.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Right, motion by Ms. Sully, a second by Mr. Rogers, and all those in favor this evening?
Aye.
And those opposed? All right, 6:35.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.